leadership, the gender policy framework, we included recreational facilities under the strategic goal. It read to develop a sector-wide gender in sport strategy. And we thought, rather than just looking at sport, why don't we include recreational facilities so that we can cover those areas where BNSC, the codes are not there. We're thinking of even the constituency leagues and others. They will be covered under recreational facilities. When we moved to the strategic objective, the first one, where we talked about mission and vision, we added values. Because when we talk now of more practical issues, we thought the values should be reflected. In fact, even at initiatives, we added values to mission and values, to mission and vision. There was 3 under the strategic objective, which writes to engage, convince, and inspire boards so that they can take gender mainstreaming seriously. And we thought, how do you measure that somebody is serious? We just thought it's something which cannot be done, it's not practical. I don't know how many of you know whether I'm serious or not, just by looking at me. And we changed it to say the gender-sensitive approach, the codes, the associations, they should factor in a gender-sensitive approach when developing their plans. That you can measure. Does this plan have a gender-sensitive approach, not the seriousness? When we moved to the initiatives, still under the policy, the gender policy framework, there is the one which review all 40 strategic plans. And we thought, honestly, when you are measuring, when you say 40, immediately you think of BNSC. That's why we have codes and we talk about 40, 42. And we say it's not only BNSC, it's beyond BNSC, like I indicated earlier. So we just said review strategic plans for sport governing bodies. And it will cover all, including those outside BNSC. We moved down to leadership. And under leadership, the strategic goal, it talked about to ensure that women and men have equal number of. Our debate centered around empowerment rather than quotas. We know the standard protocol, it talks about 30%, but we said, you know, even if we can take Matro and throw her in a board, if she's not willing and she's not able, she will not make it. Empower Matro first, in whatever discipline. So we talked about to ensure that women and men have an equal opportunity or equal opportunities for positions, not the numbers as such. Like I say, we know they started, and we believe 30% we can get for those who are willing and are empowered, not just for anybody. When we move to the strategic objective, we realize that the emphasis again closes us into BNSC because it talks about to promote and enforce female leadership in sports, governing bodies. And we said the reason why at times we take so long to make it, you'll get them in sports governing bodies, get them in BNSC, get them in whatever code, council, management. But if they're not there in parliament, they're not there in cabinet, they're not there in full council, they're not there in other strategic bodies where decisions, serious decisions are taken, we will not get there. So let's position some of our people, not necessarily female, but people who are passionate about these issues in strategic fora, and they will talk for us. So we rephrased it to include, so it reads to promote and enforce female leadership in sport governing, in sport and other strategic fora, governing bodies. In fact, I think we removed governing bodies because we're thinking of even beyond boards. So when we moved to the strategic initiative, I think I talked about it already, where we talked about 40%, we're saying, honestly, let's not emphasize the quota. let's emphasize the empowerment. And that's when we can have sustainable growth. We moved down to gender management system, where we just made an amendment under the strategic objective. The first one, which read to establish a person team responsible for coordinating gender. We know the situation and we know it will take some time for us to do this. And we said this will be done in the medium to long term. But in the short term, let's have focal persons who are coordinating gender mainstreaming in all sports codes. So in the short term, have focal persons, and then in the medium to long term, have this one. Otherwise, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was group 2. The third group, I think, was the group on programming, and I think that fell between the cracks somehow. We're going to make a plan to cover those. Sorry? Have all this captured, yes?
Yeah.
Thank you.
That he's asking you to gather to look at what are some of the very real, tangible indicators that we're going to come up with. Clearly, we will have information about the number of women and men who are participating at a development level, at a competitive level, and also we will have data around who is actually getting awards in this process. The conversation we had, isn't that the little thing that we might have used for this gadget here? Won't it work with your? You've already said that, okay. We then looked at events, the special events that are hosted, regional, global, and so forth, that are hosted by Botswana, how many are hosted. And we looked at how we could gender disaggregate that information. And we came to the conclusion after a long discussion of looking at the types of sports that are featured in those. That actually the easiest way to do it is just to look at the number of athletes who are participating in the events, no matter what their sport is, so that we could look at the number of women and number of men who are in these events, because that will give us some fairly good information about who's being served, yeah? And would also help us to target, well, first from the ground up, making sure that there are more women, especially in the male-dominated sports, but also looking at hosting events where there are more likely to be women participating. We looked at remuneration. We were told that the issue of remuneration, I just quoted that figure before, that there are very, very few women in professional sport, paid sport at the moment. So that is a concern, and how do we increase that? But we also learned that the actual difference in remuneration between women and men is something we may not be able to get